there, it's Justin Heminger with Madden Real Estate. Wanted to check in with you. We've been getting a lot of questions recently about property values increasing, and wanted to address some of that because while assessed values may be increasing, it may not necessarily mean that your property values are increasing. And if your assessed value has increased dramatically, may have an answer for that. So we're going to take a look at the 2021 real property assessment notice that went out here earlier this month that a lot of people are getting, and then not necessarily understanding exactly what it says, and then worrying that they're going to be taxed at a higher rate, which you are, because that's how that works. If they raise your assessed value, then you're naturally going to be assessed for a higher amount of money. So we're going to take a look at mine, and then that should help explain a few things. So let me share my screen. Okay, so this is my 2021 real property assessment notice. I've got my information redacted. But if we take a look, we can see that my property increased in value $7,977, so a 2.4% change. Now, a lot of people have seen huge increases in their assessed value. I've talked to some people as high as 40%. A lot of them are seeing like 20%. So why is that? Well, if you look at your last date inspected, if you see that that's a very recent number, or a very recent date, like mine is, about a year and a half away, almost 2 years. If they just came out and saw that you made a whole bunch of improvements to your property, that could explain it a little bit. But I think that there might be some more information to look at too. So this is the first page. You'll see your property account number, your millage group, your zoning, your legal description for your property, as well as your physical address. So some dates to keep in mind are, for the first one, March 31st. If you don't have the residential tax exemption, which I'm about to show you, or the disabled veteran property tax exemption, or senior citizen property tax exemption, then you need to get this application in by March 31st. For the purposes of this application, you can apply for the residential tax exemption just with this application, but for the senior citizen and disabled veteran application, you're going to need to go down to the assessment office there at the borough. I think it's on the first floor. So let's look at the second page. Whoops. Here we are for the second page, or not really second page. What you'll see is these two pages are joined with the perforation right here at top, or at the top rather. So you'll see again your name and mailing address, your property account number, your abbreviated property description. This is the page that you rip off from the bottom at the perforation and then send it into the borough. You can take it in person if you want, but these are all options. If you look down in the bottom left-hand corner and you see that there is nothing there, like so you see mine says residential homeowner, that could be an indication or a reason why you've seen your property rates increase. So for instance, one gentleman I spoke with the other day, he said he saw a 20% increase in his property value. And I said, well, let me ask, are you taking your residential tax exemption? Well, what's that? Well, it's a $50,000 adjustment to your assessed value. So if we go back up to the first page, we see that my property value is at $344,466, but that's not what I'm assessed at, or that's not what I'm sorry, I am assessed at that price, but that's not what I am taxed at. I am taxed at a rate $50,000 below that, so like $284,466, or $294. So that's far less money. And I asked this gentleman, I said, hey, are you getting your residential tax exemption? No, I'm not. Well, that's probably why, because if you look at the numbers, it's pretty close. So if let me open up a calculator here, and hopefully you can see that. Let me stop sharing and then reshare my calculator. So we are at $344,466. If we subtract the $50,000 from that, that's $294,466. $50,000 is a lot of money. So in order to calculate what I'm taxed at, we look at the mill rate, and my mill rate is 22.26. So I think it's actually 22.2703. But we'll use 2226 as our number. So we're going to divide that number, that 294,466, by 1,000, because we've got 22.2703 mills. So we're going to divide by 1,000, multiply that by that mill rate number. So times, so took that by 1,000, 22.2703. And we see that I'm taxed at $6,557. So keep that number in mind, 6,557. If we did not use that tax exemption, 344,466 divided by 1,000 times 22.2703, $7,600.71 or $7,671. So roughly $1,100 a year in savings by just using that residential tax exemption. So that's pretty fancy. So if you are not getting your residential tax exemption, absolutely put that residential homeowner in that box and send it on to the borough. Now, this only applies if you are living in your property. So if you are not living in your property, my camera was acting really weird, then you're not going to get that exemption. Now, if you are a disabled veteran with a disability rating of over 50%, you qualify for the disabled veteran exemption as well. And you can add that onto your residential tax exemption. That disabled veteran tax exemption is $150,000. So if you are living in your property and you're a disabled vet with over 50% disability rating, you qualify for up to $200,000. I don't know if you can see it on my end or on your end, but on mine, my camera's all glitchy. You qualify for $200,000 adjustment to your assessed value. So let's look at those numbers. Let's say I was a disabled veteran and living in my home. This is what we would be seeing. So we got that 344,466 minus 200,000 gets us to $144,466. So now we'll divide that by 1,000, 44.466, and we'll multiply that by 22.2703, $3,200. Nearly cuts my assessed value, I'm sorry, my tax rate in half. We talk to sellers all day long that are not taking these exemptions, and they absolutely qualify for them. So if you love your borough so much that you're like, well, nope, they just absolutely need to take my money, don't get the exemption. But if you could use an extra $3,600, $3,500 a year, and you're a disabled veteran and you live in your home, you may as well take that exemption. Fun fact. So if you have any questions about this, please give us a call back, or a call rather, at 907-452-3000 or at info@maddenrealestate.com.